Welcome to another episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. Today, we are welcoming an amazing guest onto the podcast. If you are subscribed to our newsletter or anything like that, I'm sure that a lot of you are already familiar with Paige Harding. She is an amazing attorney located out of Dodge City, and we just have her on today to talk all things keeping records within our cattle businesses and just a little bit more on that topic. So, Paige, I'd love it if you could just take it away, share a little bit about who you are and just kind of your background in agriculture and the cattle industry.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. My name is Paige Harding, and I'm an attorney with Kennedy Berkeley in Dodge City, Kansas. At Kennedy Berkeley, we have offices in Dodge City, Garden City, Hays, and Salina, and we mainly do a lot of ag law. So that's working with ag businesses and working with producers as well. So I was originally from Dodge City. I grew up on a cow, calf, and crop operation, and my dad also owned some small businesses, and so I through all of that, I'm really able to speak towards how important record keeping is because not only do I experience this in my legal practice, but in my everyday life as well. After graduating from high school, I went to the University of Kansas and then on to Washburn Law School to get my Juris Doctorate degree. And I recently moved back to Dodge City. It has been great for me. The community is so welcoming. I'm very heavily involved in the Rural Justice Initiative, trying to get more attorneys in rural areas across Kansas. And so I'm glad that I can be an example of that and living proof of how successful you can be in a small town. My sisters and I still operate a cattle company, PAL Cattle Company, and it's just a cow-calf operation, and that is a great thing to get me out of the office and get me outside and working there, so I really enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to start diving right into the topic that we kind of lined out a little bit for today. So, why do good records matter for cattle producers listening to this? Why is it important? Why should they care? All the things like that.
Yes. So good legal records are so important for any business, but especially a cattle operation. And keeping accurate records of your cattle's health and genetics and your financial records, all of that is extremely important. But today I'm going to really focus on why these legal documents matter. So many times it is so easy to just poo-poo these documents and put them by the wayside. But when you need them and when they're important, you really need them. By the end of this episode, I hope that I have convinced you to maintain those documents year round. And also, when you're setting up your operation, meet with an attorney to really hone in what you need, really take the time to decide what clauses you need to put in there to have a successful business. So essentially, before you do anything for your business, before you decide to buy or sell your business, set up a succession plan. Honestly, even yearly when you go to see your accountant, you need to have good financial records. If I am doing an asset purchase agreement of an LLC, an operation, a sale barn, a dairy, any ag operation or any business in general, the first thing that I have to do is go back and look at that operating agreement to see if what we are trying to do complies with the rules that you have set up for your business. And unfortunately, all too often, I get a blank stare and people think, where is that operating agreement? It's kind of like your social security card, how you can be having a conversation and then randomly you're like, where is my social security card? That is the same exact blank stare that I get when it comes to operating agreements. And same thing goes for a succession plan. If we are sitting down to plan out the future of your operation or your business, the first thing that I want to do is see these founding documents and look at these founding documents to decide what the best route is going to be for the future of your business. And all too often, people do not know where these documents are. Like I said, people really poo-poo these documents until they matter. Because when they matter, they really matter, and you can find yourself in legal trouble. For example, I had a guy who owns an ag business call me a couple of weeks ago, and he was facing a couple hundred of thousands of dollars in fines from a government agency because his business was not in compliance with some federal regulations. And unfortunately, had he taken the time to meet with an attorney and really hone in what he wanted his business to look like and hone in the details of these operating agreements, he would not be facing those fines. However, he didn't do the work up front. He put it off. He didn't want to pay an attorney or his accountant a couple $1,000s to do the work up front. And now he's facing a couple hundred of thousands of dollars in federal regulation fines because of that.
That's just one example of not having your crud together, I guess, when it comes to these documents, and just whether it be true legal documents or just record keeping documents in general. It's one of those situations that people get into that they don't realize that they need them until they need them. And then they're really cursing themselves for, like, their previous self for not getting it together, when it would have been so much easier and maybe cheaper to do it beforehand. Can you go over some of just these documents that you see cattle producers needing? Just different things that they can kind of do on that front to be proactive.
Yes, absolutely. So when most cattle producers have an LLC for their operation, and when you set up that LLC, you will file it with your Secretary of State, and then you will get an employer identification number from the IRS. If you are going through an attorney, they should be able to print out these documents and have them be readily available to you. In addition to that, you will need an operating agreement. And this is where a lot of people fall short. They go to an attorney and they say, just get me an operating agreement, just set up this LLC. However, if you are really utilizing this document to the best of the ability, this could be the driving force for your operation. This can outline buy-sell agreements, succession planning. Are you going to let non-family members in your LLC? What job descriptions are you going to have in this business, and who will take on those job descriptions and roles and responsibilities? So if you are really sitting down, thinking through these documents and honing in on the specific language and the specific provisions that you want to make your business as successful as possible, then you can have a really strong operating agreement, and that can really be the driving force for your business. If you have a corporation, you will need the corporate documents, which are the minutes. Here we go again. Most corporations, you must have an annual meeting, and a lot of people just draft the minutes, don't have the meeting, and put the minutes in a dusty old binder and probably in the garage or in the farm office somewhere. However, again, if you really sit down and take the time to have an annual meeting, an actual annual meeting where you are going through the financials, everyone's jobs, everyone's roles and responsibilities, it will really help you run an effective business in the long run. And then whenever the accountant or your financial advisor or your attorney is calling you and asking you for that information, you know where that binder is and you have it readily available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. How often do producers need to be updating these documents? What does that kind of look like? Like, if you're doing an operating agreement, like you said, with an LLC, a lot of people probably get them set up so that they can get their LLC set up and their bank account opened and stuff. And then, like you said, put them in a folder and never look at them again, and don't even remember that they even did it when they set up their LLC. But kind of like what you're saying, you can update these documents. You can come back and review them, all of this stuff. How should we as cattle producers be approaching these different documents from a legal space, but then also maybe some documents that are outside of the legal space as well?
I recommend looking through them and updating them once a year. If you do it more than that, that's great. However, once a year is probably that sweet spot, that necessary time frame to look at those documents. So attorneys, financial advisors, and accountants really work hand in hand. And I think it's great if you have an LLC or a corporation, have that binder with all of the necessary information in there. And then when you get your tax returns, when you get any information from your financial advisor, just throw it in that binder as well. And that might be a good reminder to you to look back through those documents. But just having it all in one place will really make all of the professionals that you go to, their lives easier. If you just hand me that binder and you've got your tax information in there and your financial advising information in there, that will make it a lot easier for me to do my job and for your other professionals as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that just goes across the board with just good record keeping and running a sound business. I think so often as cattle producers, we have all of the other stuff down. We're good on our genetics, we're good on how to operate a business in the day to day, but when it comes to the actual bookkeeping and the running a business part of running a business, too often we see people kind of just dropping the ball and just like the kindest way possible, just not having it together because that's not where your strengths are. So I think that, like Paige has been talking about, that's where having a really good, solid team comes in, a team that can be there to help you along that journey, a team of attorneys, a team of your financial advisor, all of this stuff, people that can kind of lightly sit there and be like, tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you need to get these documents done. Hey, have you done your annual review? Hey, have you like done these things like that to kind of just keep that relationship going, and so that you don't have to sit there stressing at the end of the year as a producer or just as a business owner, asking yourself, oh my gosh, what are all the things I have to do? What am I forgetting? I don't want to get sued and then not have all this stuff together, like anything like that. So Paige, where do you see just some of the biggest mistakes coming in that these producers are making, that just corporations are making and stuff like that?
So, especially with LLCs, I see this a lot. A rancher or farmer will create a single member LLC for their farming or ranching operation, and then they will continue to commingle their LLC assets with their personal assets. So, when you have an LLC, you need to have a separate bank account for that LLC and only utilize that bank account for LLC operations. Additionally, with equipment, people try to do different things and to avoid taxes. And I am not a CPA, so I'm not going to give you advice on that. But in short, I see a lot of people commingle their LLC assets with their personal assets, and I just think that it is best to keep them all separate, especially when it comes down to succession planning, or if you are buying or selling, or someone is buying or selling a member out, because that just keeps everything straight and simple and easy. So don't commingle assets if you don't have to.
Yeah, and I may be totally off on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole reason that we set up LLCs, a big part of that reason is for like tax advantages, things like that, but then also on a legal standpoint, it protects us. If anything were to ever happen in one of my personal LLCs or stuff like that, they can't come after my house.
Exactly.
If we get in lawsuits or different things like that, they're two separate things. But if I start commingling assets, then the other representing legal team can look at that and say, hey, she's commingling assets. This is a representation of them not treating this like a true business. And then they can come after my personal assets because of that commingling. Isn't that correct?
Correct. It is called piercing the corporate veil, and we definitely don't have time to get into that today, but that is a very big issue. And that is why people set up LLCs, for tax advantages and so that you don't have that personal liability. You're exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just like another reason to, for anyone listening to this, to kind of like look at it and be like, okay, like I actually do kind of need to get this stuff together, make sure I'm not making some of these common mistakes, things like that. What other legal risks do you kind of see coming with just like poor record keeping overall, Paige?
I especially see this in buying or selling ag businesses. Like I said, whenever someone is coming to me and wants to do the asset purchase agreement of an ag business, the very first thing that I do is go look at the operating agreement or look at those formation documents and see if that is even allowed based off of the rules that they set for themselves. So sometimes when people create it and don't look at their operating agreement for years and years and years, they have a provision that they find that they've been either breaking one of their own rules or bylaws. They might not be able to sell that business because of a provision in the operating agreement. And you can work around those things, but when you are making a very big decision like buying a large ag business, and then we are getting caught up in the beginning phases with the operating agreement, that's really a big problem. Whenever my clients leave my office, I want them to feel confident and in control of their future and have peace of mind about where their records are. And most attorneys keep these records, unless your attorney retires, but most of the attorneys do have these records that you can fall back on. But I want people to feel empowered and confident and have these documents and understand what they mean and truly utilize them to the best of their abilities and are able to run a successful business based off of even something as simple as these formation documents.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd be remiss if we had a lawyer on today and I wasn't able to talk about and ask a few other questions just from a legal perspective. Can you just give us some of your advice, tips, stuff like that when ranchers or other people within the cattle industry are approaching leases or just other contracts and stuff like that they might be coming across and seeing?
Yes, absolutely. So everyone loves a handshake deal. Personally, that's one of the biggest reasons why I love small town America is that people stick to their word most of the time, and the key word there is most of the time. So there are so many verbal agreements out there, and it is so much easier to have a verbal agreement and shake on it. However, those can end up biting you in the butt in the end, and unfortunately, I have seen that all too often lately. The ag lease term is up each year on March 1st in Kansas. I don't know what it is in other states, but in Kansas, March 1st is the big ag lease day. And so I have ran into a lot of problems with that lately. So I think it's always best to just get it in writing. It might cost a couple $100s for an attorney to do it now and save you a couple $1,000s down the line, if you're getting in trouble with a verbal lease agreement. So I think it's just best to get things in writing. And I know it's a pain. I think it's a pain too, but it really will save you in the end.
And I think that's the biggest thing to remember about all of this. Like what you said, it's going to save you in the end. It's pain right now. No one wants to sit down and spend a day going through legal documents or trudging through their computer and trying to find all of these things and stuff like that. Like, it's not fun, but it's better to get organized now as a precautionary standpoint, and just kind of like having all of your ducks in a row rather than scrambling. God forbid anything ever do happen and you do need these documents, and you need them quickly, and then you're stressed out about a million other things and trying to find all of this. So just from a precautionary standpoint, it's really great to just start getting your ducks in a row right now, and start doing it slowly. Like, it doesn't have to be you sit down and do it all in one day, because I think if I did that, I would come out in a very sour mood at the end of the day from my office. Like, just try and spend an hour or two once a week right now working on finding these documents, updating these documents, getting things in order, stuff like that. So Paige, if a producer is listening to this and they're like, okay, I need to get my ducks in a row, what steps should they be taking to do so?
First things first, reach out to an attorney, and it is best to just be as honest as possible with your attorney. Tell them what you need, what you're looking for. In a perfect world, how could you have your operation set up? And they will likely draft the documents, and then you might go back and forth for a little bit if you want some specific provisions. But I like I said earlier, I really try to explain things to my clients, and I want them to leave my office feeling confident and empowered in their future and what we have set up. So you might have to shop around for that type of lawyer who you find who can help you to do that as well. But I First things first, I recommend reaching out to an attorney. If you already have these documents, maybe try looking for them. I know that it might be a little tough. They might be a little bit dusty. You might not have pulled out that binder for a while, but try looking at them, give them a read, see if they're, see what you have now and decide what you want going forward. And that can be when you reach out to an attorney and make that call. I was actually just on the phone with a guy from a dairy operation earlier today, and I said, hey, I need your operating agreement. And of course I got the exact same, oh, I don't know where that is. And then he called me a couple hours later and it was in his garage. So he was able to find it. I know you can too. So start there, do an assessment of what you have, what you need, what you want to see differently, and then reach out to your attorney to help you finalize those changes if you want changes to be made, or just make an update in general, or honestly just to explain those documents, to explain to you what your situation currently is and where they think you might be able to benefit from drafting some new documents.
Absolutely. And if someone's listening to this and they just maybe need to be better at their record keeping, what kind of tips, tricks, advice do you have for that standpoint as well?
I'm a big proponent of the binder. So stick with the binder. Most attorneys will give you one. Stick with that binder, and like I said, throw everything in there. So at least if you need it randomly, at least you know it's probably in that binder, and pull it out once a year. Pull it out once a year, look over it, really analyze what's working for you and what's not working for you, and ask questions. If you have questions about your legal documents, just pick up the phone and call your attorney. If you have questions about your tax documents, just pick up the phone and call your accountant. They're probably going to be more than willing to help you understand what you have now and see how they can even help you in your operation in the future.
Absolutely. Well, Paige, if listeners are listening to this, want to talk to maybe you more, if you're a listener in Kansas, where Paige can help you with some of that advice or stuff like that, where can they go just to learn more? What contact info, all of that stuff? We'll obviously have it in the show notes, but just where can they go to start down this road with their ranching operations?
Yes, so you can go to kenburke.com and you can find my attorney profile and my email address there. That is for Kennedy Berkeley, kenburke.com. Or you can go to my personal website, which is paigeharding.com, and my contact information is on there as well. And I would be happy to help you. I would love to help you feel confident and empowered in the legal documents for your business operation.
Yes, absolutely. And everyone listening, we will have every single one of Paige's links linked down below. So if you guys have any questions, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to her. Even if you're not in Kansas and maybe you just have a question on finding a good lawyer or something like that, feel free to reach out to Paige. I'm sure she's more than happy to help you find the right person that can help you with your operational needs. Everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of the Cattle USA Daily Podcast. We will see you all tomorrow on another one. Have a good day.